Welcome back to the Educational Currency Podcast. I'm Chris Kaladakis from Maximum Education.
I'm Robert Namoski from the Tuition Centre, the Coaching College, and the Martial Arts Centre, Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu.
And today we're going to be following up kind of on what we've seen to be one of our most interesting podcasts, which was related to single sex and co-ed schools, and just different reasons about going why you might have a preference over one or the other and what to expect going the other. There's been recent developments, and Rob, you're very well of a lot of this that's going on,
Yes.
and particularly our area of the St. George district, where we're seeing changes from some single-sex schools into a co-education form of delivery.
We're seeing schools, for example, the big one, new one that's called Bayside High, combining a boys' school, James Cook, and there's a field separating them, and Moorfield Girls into one big co-ed Bayside High School.
Yeah.
And that's going to be quite prominent in the area. And then we also now, what used to be Hurstville Boys is now Georges River Grammar Hurstville, and what used to be Penshurst Girls is Georges River Grammar Penshurst, and they feed into the Oatley campus.
Yeah.
They're 7 to 10 feeding into the Oatley campus of year 11 and 12. So they're changes that have happened now. And we're just looking at, well, I think it's a need from the parents. Parents are wanting co-ed education.
And so, and they have gotten data on this, and we found it very interesting. So basically, there's been two key documents that have been related to this. First one is, and I think it stems from Georges River, the senior campus. They've been talking to parents in the community, and there has been an outcry for more opportunity for co-education options. And it's obviously reflecting in the changes in the school. And while we're only mentioning the St. George schools, it's going beyond to, I think they've done similar.
Yeah, private schools as well. I think Newington just finished their court case.
Yeah.
As we're having this podcast.
And that's what stemmed out, urged on our first time we covered the topic. So it's going, the independent schools are changing. Cranebrook, I think, is changing on the independent side. In Sydney Catholic schools too, like that, Penzo's changed a few years ago. But both Pagewood, as well as St. Mary's Cathedral in the city, they're both changing to co-education too. So it's going on in many facets. It's going outside of the St. George district too, into Randwick and other schools in the area. And so data has been collected on this. And with the actual one done by at Georges River College, I think there was about a 75% approval rating that we need more co-ed and we want co-ed options in the community. So it's clearly a response, and from that, a policy was developed, I think, from the government, the New South Wales Department of Education's co-education access policy, which is to ensure that all families have a co-education option for their children.
Well, if 75%, that's pretty much unanimous.
Yeah. So it's just quite interesting the amount of change we're seeing. So why might families be wanting co-education, Rob? What's your experience?
First of all, you go, what would change the government's mind to make that?
Yeah, well, true. That's it.
Well, we can bring it down, say, to the teacher. Let's look at it from the teaching profession, where you go, okay, if it's a rougher socioeconomic group and it's an all-boys school, well, how many teachers are they retaining there? And what is the quality of education that the boys are getting there? And this is where, boys would suffer. And, teachers, it's not like, the government's giving extra percentage pay where if you are working in a disadvantaged school because it's rougher, you could be putting yourself in danger, et cetera, et cetera. There's no danger money in this. So as teachers, especially very good ones at these schools, at some point, they'd be getting offers at other schools, and many would have taken it.
And it pulls them out of the actual public system sometimes.
They'll just change to another school in the public system. They could make their way to a selective school. It's still the public system. A very good experienced teacher at a very rough school. I mean, this is a teacher well-versed in well-being, well-versed in classroom management. I mean, they're coming out of the trenches. So anywhere else for them would be a breeze, easy, and that level of experience will be well sought after by many other schools.
Yeah.
And then how do you replace them? Well, having a new teacher coming out of university, I'm sure that wouldn't be their school of choice.
No.
So maybe I'd say from a government perspective, making it co-ed kind of softens it up. and actually allows teachers to stay in the profession and stay teaching at these schools. So, thinking of from a government policy, it's almost like a win-win situation. The parents want it, but it's not like the government's going to run and straight away give what the parents want. So there could be something more involved in this, I believe.
Oh, look, that is such a good perspective to have, Rob. And I'm glad you actually started with that teacher's perspective, because we are on the back of the teacher shortage. And they have to be thinking, how do we retain teachers in our schools? And that point when I jumped in before, I was trying to allude to the fact that the challenge with the public schools is teachers can get either paid more at an independent school and get more controlled conditions. The independent and Catholic schools have a bit more flexibility of who they take in. And that's
and also an independent school, they can ask people to leave.
Yeah, they've got a lot more freedom.
As a teacher there, you're really taken care of.
Yeah.
I mean, we are there to teach and we present our work. Now, of course, you have to have good classroom management skills. But if things do get out of hand and it's disrupting the class, well, there are policies in place. We try, we implement systems in place, but then if it's not working, maybe this school is not a fit for that child.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is where the teacher, where it's not thrown back in your room. I mean, I've heard situations and scenarios where, kids do such vicious things at school where I don't particularly want to describe on the podcast, but it would make your skin crawl. But then they have a right to an education. They're back in the classroom.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, their hands are tied.
Yeah, and then as a teacher, you're looking at it going, well, at what point do you get burnt out? And then the kids that are sitting there staring at you in the face, your cortisol levels through the roof. So how much of how's your presentation skills going? At what point do you just go, okay, it's just getting too much. I'll get my pay. I'll put the work up. Whoever learns it, whoever asks, I'll put the effort in to a certain point. But then it becomes about your well-being.
Yeah.
So I think probably it's a very good government policy.
Yeah, it is. And hopefully, it's something to keep teachers in government schools. And obviously make it look attractive to teachers as an option, and kind of create that environment that is more natural. Okay, and I think that's one of the positives that we're going to go through a bit later, and that hopefully plateaus and calms some of the students down than if they were in that single-sex environment, and that what has given some of these single-sex schools a certain reputation, which people are avoiding.
But it calms things down from, an all-girls school as well. Because I've had situations in the tuition center, not particularly mentioning the school, but, where the girls were bullied out of the school.
Yeah.
And the parents were horrified walking into school going, but this is happening. Well, if it's not a good fit for your daughter, then leave. And they've gone into other schools and thrived.
Yeah.
Like really thrived, It's happened to a relative of mine. She's at another school now where she was bullied out of the school, where the principal at the time wasn't as engaged to what was happening, must have had their own issues, etc. And the mum of the daughter is an actual educator. When she went to the school, she realized, they're just asking me to leave. They're not addressing the problem. At the school she's at now, I think she's, vice captain or captain.
Yeah.
And then you realize, well, management comes from the top.
Yeah.
And how the principal deals with it. And I've heard situation after situation, it all comes from that senior management. And it starts with the principal. So far, I mean, I've been super fortunate to work under two really, really good principals. So I don't know what it's like working under someone where you'd have to deal with the issues of senior higher management. But from what I gather with the people that come to me in the martial arts center and friends, that gets very stressful. Very stressful, Yeah. There's even a situation, an actually very close family friend of mine, she's working as a casual now.
Yeah.
And she's an actual AP. She went around to other schools as a casual where she realized and went, oh, wow, the environment I'm working in was bad. And it's opened up her eyes to it. And she said herself, speaking to her today, it actually gave her a new life in teaching.
Yeah.
She goes, I remember I was teaching to primary school kids in year 5, in year 6. It actually brought me alive again. The kids were were active, etc. And where she was working at, the principal actually reprimanded staff for going in the lunchrooms during lunch and recess.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
And I turned around and went, "Oh my God, you actually stayed there after that?" I can't comprehend that being done to me.
And that's actually really good advice that we've said on the podcast before for any teacher out there that's thinking about leaving the industry. Exactly that. Go into some casual, see some other schools and get rejuvenated from their environments. It might even be that the children are the problem. Like I said, it could be management on your back, breathing down your neck that is part of the problem.
And maybe you'll appreciate the school you were at too.
Yeah, and that's it.
Where you realize and go, "Oh wow, actually, this where I was was a very good place with very good people." Yeah.
But then I also do want to bring up with senior management too. Sometimes even their hands are tied, and especially in the public scenario, they're bound by budgets and how much staff they have and things like that too. So even then, they can't control that context, and they're merely working with what they got.
But being a supportive person is very different.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, that's right. The human element.
You could, actually, Kate said,
What did you say, Kate?
Just before we were speaking, you could have a dream job and a nightmare boss.
Yeah.
Or you could have a very, very hard environment dealing with problem kids. But if you've got that support, you've got great leadership, it makes it a great job.
I think you should put it out on screen, Kate, with tagging yourself.
Well, the conversation just happened, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And he brought it, and I went, she absolutely nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
So if you do have, kids do need to be educated. It's not like as teachers, "Oh, no, sorry, this school is too rough."
Yeah.
"Oh, no, these kids, I can't handle them." And you go to a more comfortable school. No, but if that school, you've got great leadership, very supportive leadership, could be a great place to work.
Yeah.
And absolutely sharpen your skills.
Yeah. And you can see how change in management can completely change the culture in a school.
Well, that great management at a school that's you'd say a low socioeconomic status school, that would build you great rapport with kids, And at those schools, from what I've gathered, kids are more intense in everything. They're more intense when they misbehave. They're more intense when they study. They're more intense in building a relationship with you. So there could be great benefits in that.
Yeah. And so it's looking like they're heading in a good direction with
the co-eds. Yeah, co-ed would smooth, I'd say, and not that I'm very experienced in working many years at a school, but I did go from a boys' school to a co-ed school, and the co-ed school seems a bit more chilled. A bit more chilled. Boys together are more intense. Now, they're more intense, the relationships they build with you. They're more intense with their well-being. They're more intense together as a group when they build those bonds, But, don't get me wrong, I loved working at both schools, but if I had to see the comparison, that's what I'd say. When you get the boys together, they build that more intense relationship with the teacher. But then the teacher's got to be able to handle their classroom management. So, we've seen, we work together at that school, and we've actually seen teachers cry at the desk. Especially practice. I've seen a few practice break down, if they can't handle their classroom management. And these boys are great.
Yeah, they are.
No, they're good boys. It's just you as the teacher not having the skills to manage
It is very daunting. And I'll be honest, not at my current school, but actually at my previous school, and I did have a pracky too. And it was a male teacher too. Yeah. And he did break down and cry as well. The idea of walking to this room, with 30 young men there, it is intimidating, on a variety of levels. Like obviously, the amount of people. Sometimes the boys are much larger than the teacher, so it's physically intimidating.
It's harder on females.
Of course. That's why I said this was male, but of course it's even more harder.
You cannot compare.
Yeah. And, and things like that too. And obviously all those aspects are addressed then when it becomes a co-ed environment and they're learning to respect their female peers, let alone teachers as well.
It's just getting that cortisol level up. And I saw it with, I got allocated a class. I've stopped finishing. Year 12s are done, so we get extra casual classes. And it was an English class, and a pracky was taking the class. And I could see her cortisol levels rise.
Yeah.
You see that frustration. And you look at her and go, man, this is going to be a very good teacher one day.
Yeah.
The way she had her work presented, and it was actually interesting. I found it interesting. It was on, some poet from, I think it was an Iranian poet that was talking about Lebanon back in his day. And he was mentioning that Lebanon was the Paris of, the Middle East. And then I mentioned to the class that Lebanon was a French colony once upon a time, that the poet, I can't remember the poet's name, but when you looking at this teacher teach, that level of, stop talking, you continue, do your work, that level of frustration where you go, okay, I debriefed her later and I basically said to her, okay, this is a performance. You're an actor.
Yeah.
You're an actor. It's a performance. You are trying to get the kids to steer them in a way to get them to do what you need them to do without raising your cortisol levels up.
Yeah.
So as an actor, you see what works, what doesn't work. And I mentioned to her to actually look at, there's the two very experienced female teachers, three actually, that we have at the school, and all three have different styles. One's got this intense style that works for her, and she's very, very good at it. Another one's got this energetic style where she moves into the room and she just absorbs the room. And another teacher, she's got this relaxed sort of you will listen to me style, and we're very fortunate to have them at our school. And you look at them and go, wow, these are all, like three females, three different styles of teaching, and every single one works. So I guess then as a new teacher, depends on your character. And I mentioned to this female teacher, just pick one, follow her around, ask her, really help you out. But then back to, the co-ed and single sex schools, I guess the same problem happens with all girls schools as well. It's not just, I can stand up and be staunched. I'd find the same problem in an all-girls school.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd get the female teachers to keep helping me out.
Yeah.
So then the roles are reversed. I'd probably be more stressed out in a girls' school.
Yeah, my first full-time job was in an all-girls school, and it was quite intimidating.
How'd you go with that? What was your experience?
Horrible.
Horrible. Like, what was the one thing that you'd say, like, as a new teacher, working in the single-sexed girls' school, being the opposite sex? What was the biggest challenge?
I came from an all-boys school as in high school. And then, my first full-time teaching role being in an all-girls school, I did not understand their social dynamics. So pretty much, this is it, my first class for the day. It was a year 10 class. I walked in there. Girls were lovely. Girls were quiet. Suddenly one gets up crying and runs out of the room, and I had no idea what happened. I didn't understand. And then there was an investigation. I had something to do because another girl looked at her. I didn't know what that look meant. And so I just didn't know what led to that scenario.
How can you know?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't understand. And, I was at that school for 6 months because it was a 10 block for 6 months. And there was a lot of learning on the way. But then, it was a challenge there. And, we've mentioned that, it was hard for young female teachers in an all-boys school, but I've got to say, I think it's hard for male teachers in an all-girls school.
It's the same.
It is hard. Like, you are outnumbered. You're kind of seen as the guy, and, they try to push things with you. Like, it is hard on that too. Like, in all areas, I think all new teachers, no matter what scenario they go into, they're going to be tested. But, when you're tested as a minority, it's just that little bit more challenging there too. And, and the staff were also predominantly female too. So it was hard for me to find mentors. And the other male staff predominantly were all young like me too.
Yeah, so there wasn't someone experienced that sat in a girls' school, 10, 15 years as a male.
There was one teacher.
Yeah.
And he was, he'd been there for about 25 years. But he was of a different mold, I should say. And, he was a man of legend. But, it just wasn't something I could relate to in my own teaching model at that point, So, it was quite challenging there. So there are definite challenges in both single-sex environments there too. But then, as we know, I'm in an all-boys environment now, and I think I'm actually in my niche, and I can see a lot of the merits of single-sex and for those boys in that environment too.
It's so much easier if you're a male in a boys' school.
Yeah.
You just can't compare. Yeah. And I think my experiences were I took my attitudes in that school, the way I handled the boys and everything else, and I bring it straight into a co-ed school.
Yeah.
And this is and I didn't realize that it was a bit too intense for the girls.
Yeah.
The
You had to kind of adjust almost.
I didn't adjust until the teacher that, poached me went, "Oh, Rob, yeah, some of the girls are finding it hard to breathe in your class." And I went, "Okay, so I'm listening. I'm not quite getting what he's referring to."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Okay, is there an asthma problem? Do I bring puffers?
Yeah.
Do I let the air in? Do we need to put the aircon on a certain temperature?" Yeah. He just looked at me weird and went, "Okay, tone it down. There's been a complaint where it's just too much.
Too much energy." Yeah.
I think it was too much discipline on the boys.
Yeah. But that's what you knew from being with the boys.
But it worked great with the boys. I built a good relationship with them. But then all of a sudden, it was a case of, okay, this is not working. So it was a more of walk over to the boys, don't stand at the front of the room as you are disciplining the class. Walk over to the boys, have a more serious, stern whisper where you can sort out whatever they're doing, and then smile and give a good energy to the rest of the room.
Yeah, wow.
And it was a very fast learning curve.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of, okay, make the room tense, where the room just falls in line. No, there are pockets and elements in the room that you're steering and making sure, that everyone has that environment to be able to learn.
So that will be learning curves for all these teachers at these schools that are changing.
It is. If you're used to just teaching girls and then it's co-ed, or you're used to just teaching boys and then it's co-ed, there are things that do work, but then there are other things where, hopefully you've got the experience to adapt and change and then figure out, other things that you need to give the kids that classroom environment of learning. Yeah.
And look, I guess as well with these changes too, there's obviously many opportunities for the students too. And like one of the things that's been highlighted is that, well, there could be this great school and but you can't send some of your kids there because it's obviously single sex. Well, now that it's gone co-ed, there's that equity in education and what that school offers. And that comes in a variety of ways. It could be that there's experienced teachers there and they now can teach both boys and girls. But also, and I have seen this in a single sex school too, some schools are traditional in the electives they offer. And because they can't get enough students wanting to do traditional electives, and in this all-boys scenario, I mean, like drama doesn't run often at my particular all-boys school.
They just don't pick it? Or?
Yeah, they don't pick it, or not enough kids pick it to warrant it over other elective courses running, and you're bound by what resources you have. So I guess you get a broader curriculum and more opportunity and diversity in subject options. So it's not just that you've got access to teachers that can teach both genders, but you're also getting access to more potential subjects, that aren't as gender focused. It's all seen as more equitable in what subjects are on offer with the students too in that co-education environment. So if it is that only 5 boys want to do drama, but there might be, 15 girls that want to do drama, it's more likely that type of subject will run. Okay, it works in their favor. Whereas if those boys are in an all-boys school and, you're lucky to get 5 to 10 boys wanting to do drama, it's probably not going to run when other subjects are getting, 15 to 20 running.
Yeah, but then this also has, like I said, has shown to increase the size of the school.
Yeah. Yeah, with enrollments.
Yeah, with enrollments. Yeah. So, that will allow for those extra subjects.
And look, the one school that I know of, and I obviously won't mention it by name because I shouldn't talk about enrollment data about other schools, but yeah, it's a co-ed one in our area. And we know that they have a candidature of about 210 students they can take per year. And I'm pretty sure they get 700 trying to enroll. Like that is massive, like more than 3 times, the school can take. Families want to get into that school, for a variety of reasons. Obviously the co-education side, but also it's a very good school. But there are other good schools that are single sex in the area, but that's the one families want. So enrollments, we do see they do rise with co-education.
Yeah, I think at the school I'm working at, St. Mary's and St. Mina's, we're starting to get year groups with waiting lists now.
Yeah, wow.
And I think it's, all credit to Mr. Paul Humble for actually, structuring it in a way where it's happening and creating that environment. But still, it's a co-ed school.
Yeah.
And then it's starting to get noticed.
Yeah. They're on the map.
More than on the map, it's actually growing fast.
Wow.
Fast and with numbers.
Well done, Paul.
Yeah. And so what schools are remaining?
So in the St. George area, okay, obviously there's been a drop now in single-sex schools.
But you've got the selective, two selective
so
schools.
Both selective schools, as of speaking right now,
Sydney Tech and St. George Girls.
Staying single-sex. So I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
For now, and I think that's, is there a reason behind that? And we'll talk about that in a second. I think when we talk about some of the concerns.
The enrollments are high, and
they're in demand schools.
They're in demand schools.
They're in demand schools. They're always going to be a capacity because people want to send their children to selective schools. So it'd be interesting to see what does happen on those two. But I think for now they're safe. And then Catholic schools in the St. George area, well, they've got 3 that are staying single sex. They've got St. Ursula's, they've got Bethany College, and they've got Morris College Cogra. So all of them are staying, 2 of them single sex girls, 1 single sex boys.
But then, if you're in Catholic system, you've got the option of Penshurst Marist.
Well, yeah, you do.
For co-ed.
So they've got a lot of options in that area. So, and look, I think that is a fantastic model. You do have choice. And I think that's a key thing because that's kind of what we talked about in our previous podcast when we're looking at them. Every family is going to make a choice in what suits them. Like we've said a lot of positive about co-education, but there are some concerns too with co-education too that we've got to look at. And especially if the school's transitioning to it. Like one of the big things that where you've been mentioning Newington, there was, that loss in culture. The school has been this way. The father went there, the grandfather went there, rich tradition in boys' education. Suddenly there's a belief that some of that tradition could be lost once going co-ed. So that's a concern, I think, when these schools do change. What does happen? I've also heard in some schools that have changed too, especially ones that were all boys and went to co-ed, girls, they're 3 years more mature than boys developmentally.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like the top 10 in each subject start becoming all girls and the boys don't succeed as well as the girls in co-ed.
Actually, at our school, depends. What we've noticed at St. Mary's and St. Mina's, maybe in year 7, year 8, year 9, year 10, the boys study aggressively.
Oh, no, denying that.
No, but then it's more than just when we look at the Dux Awards and everyone getting awards,
very balanced.
Seems to be balanced out.
That's good to hear.
After about definitely in the year 9, year 10, year 11 years.
Yeah.
So maybe this was just my observation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Probably about year 7, maybe year 8, yes.
Yeah.
But once year 9, year 10, stage 5, stage 6 kicks off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seemed the boys really, seemed to get their act together.
Yeah. Look, it's very interesting stuff because even when when you look at HSC high achievers, like a lot of subjects, even some that you might think, like my own area of like computing, you think, and that might be a boyish subject that has a tradition of only by class size, as we're saying that. But I'm pretty sure girls top it a lot. Okay, the girls that sit that subject top it a lot.
Yeah, but in general, academically, I've only worked at one co-ed school, and it seems to be balanced.
Yeah,
it seems to have that balance. Even we run an accelerated maths program now. Obviously, some of those classes are more boy dominant.
Yeah.
But then when you look at it across the board, well, the girls are more English dominant.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a very small cohort, so I can't make a generalization across everyone else.
But that's actually a good point to highlight, because that's what allows them to succeed in other subjects, they're so good with their words.
That's right.
Yeah.
But then girls who are good at maths also seem to be good at English.
Yeah.
So there's that. That's where you can kind of lose them in the stems. It's not that the girls don't have the ability; they've got other abilities as well.
Yeah, 100%.
That can lead them away from that.
Yeah.
Whereas boys are more driven into that one thing.
Yeah. And and so look, that's factors you've got to talk about too. And then the other one is family concerns with gender dynamics at school. Some people don't want their children near the opposite sex for a variety of reasons. Sometimes, and I mentioned my daughter in the previous podcast, she wants to go to an all-girls school. Okay, the boys drive her nuts at primary school. She wants to focus on her work. She wants to go to an all-girls school. But then we've mentioned there can be others. There's another side that too, where in the all-girls environment too, and in the all-boys environment too, there can be those alpha struggles, and that leads to social issues. So social issues aren't gone because the other gender isn't there. But obviously, there's different types of relationship issues when it is a co-ed environment as well. So that can be another factor too. And then with these transformations of the schools, there's logistical things too, of like getting new toilets and change rooms and adjusting uniforms as well. So the transition isn't always smooth. The schools do have to change still to suit their clientele.
It'd be interesting to get a teacher in that's gone through that transition.
Yeah. Oh, look, it would be actually.
Yeah, give us a rundown.
Maybe we need to do some reaching out.
We'll track someone down.
Yeah. But then, like you said too, with the selective schools, one other interesting point that I think that's there too, like the selective schools in the area are staying single sex. That made me think, all the selective schools, is there a link to students excelling when they are in single sex schools? So I looked at what were the top 10 schools in the HSC last year. 8 out of the 10 are single sex. Okay, obviously.
But they're single sex. They're forced single sex.
Yeah, but does it create a more focused environment?
I'd say it's flawed because you'd have to have a study where you'd have those same kids that you've handpicked into selective schools with co-ed.
Yes.
And to see what the impact would be.
Yeah.
Because you've forced them into a single-sex school.
Yeah.
And you've handpicked them into their academic.
Yeah, into a structure that is already successful.
Yeah. The structure is it's single-sex. Now, the question here is, if those same kids, let's say St. George Girls and Sydney Tech were mixed up, would their results increase or decrease?
Well, that's interesting. That is the question, isn't it?
That'll be a good study.
Yeah.
It may increase.
Yeah.
It's
because they've got the teachers, they've got the infrastructure.
Well, now you've got the girls pushing the boys in the English and the boys pushing the girls in the STEMs.
Yeah.
So maybe it could create, and we're just having a conversation. It could create an environment of competition, especially with selective kids.
Yeah, but then the traditional data that we mentioned also in the previous podcast is, and this is why we kind of need to have both. It does look like girls exceed in co-ed environments, but boys don't. They exceed in all boys, and that's the concern.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
And that's why we've always had it around. I think that's the other issue.
Is that what the data says? Yeah.
That's what historical data says. I don't have recent data.
Yeah, historical.
But that was always the historical say. Girls can do very well in co-ed, but boys do better in single sex. And that did correlate to what that person told me at the co-ed school that used to be all boys. That, kind of now all the top kids are kind of the girls and the boys are starting to they are more relaxed and behaviorally they're all right, but they're not exceeding the way they used to. Historically, it was all boys before that. But that's what I mean. It's kind of like the girls are going to top it out and we're just here.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's a factor too. But look, like I said, that's me talking to a teacher at one particular school, But that was historically what was said too, that, the girls co-ed, boys, all boys. But like I said, I think the key is, and that's the kind of where we got to in the previous podcast, you do need to have options, and I can see that potentially becoming an issue.
Yeah, you got to judge for you. Like we said before in previous episodes, is the school a good fit for your child?
Yeah, and that's it. And
that's the one thing. Whether it's co-ed or single sex, it's not a proven 100% formula that this will work for your child.
And it's not even just gender-based. It could be other factors such as faith-based, geographical location of the school. Is it a selective school? Is it a government school? All of those factors are things you've got to take in. And then obviously this is another one that goes along with it. But there are so many aspects at that school. Even just the subjects that school excels in, does that correlate, to your children? So they're all factors to be related to. I think this is great. And obviously you can't criticize the decision because it sounds like they've done their homework. So that does make sense, but I think options need to be there. There is a report of, I think, one school, and it's a particular independent school. I won't say its name in case my data is wrong, but they've got junior campuses that they took co-ed, and I think it's related to enrollments, but they're actually now already starting to contemplate reversing that decision. And that's the first time I've heard of that case going from co-ed back to single sex.
Was there a reason why? Or?
Well, see, I haven't done enough research into it. And that's why I'm not even going to say the school's name. But it was just a junior campus, and they're looking at going back to single sex. Okay, and it could be fueled just purely by enrollments.
Because junior campus is primary school or 7 to 10?
No, 7 to 10.
7 to 10. And then 11 and 12, they probably go co-ed.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that's going to stay. But the junior, they might go back to that. So there is still things happening. And obviously, we're going to learn as we're going. But look, if the government is responding to data and what people want, well, you can't flaw that.
No.
That's it.
Look, they are trying to make improvements.
Yeah, and like you highlighted, not just for families and children, but also for teachers.
Yeah, for the teachers, you got to understand that, It's the teacher that is responsible for your child's education.
Yeah.
So probably the co-eds, if it is a rougher socioeconomic area, an all boys school, well, how many teachers are staying there?
Yeah.
To actually educate these boys.
Yeah, if it's keeping teachers in government schools and allowing students to learn in government schools, well, then that's fantastic.
Well, the students win.
Yeah, the students win, teachers win. I think you said before, it's a win-win.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again for listening to us. And don't forget, like, subscribe, throw in a comment, and we are very grateful for your support so far. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone, tonight. Have a good day. See you later.
A good day.
I'm Chris Kalodikis.
And I'm Robert Namoski. See you next time.
Good work. Excellent. How long were we? Went to sleep on us?
Yeah, that didn't work.
Did we-